Okay, hi guys. So let's do a self-introduction. I'm Molly. I'm an MA TESOL student at American University. And as I said before, I will do my practicum here. So I will teach some of the lessons. So this is one of them. All right, so last class, we talked about how we're gonna write thesis statement and how we're gonna build a strong thesis statement. So, and also you got a professor's comments about you guys have some like run-on problems of run-on sentences of fragments or some things that I just want to say like keep revising your thesis statement until you think it's great. All right, so far as we all know that our final assignments is to write a literature review, right? So you guys has already have a topic, your thesis statement.
They don't know it yet, so
okay,
let's just call it research paper.
Research papers. So you have already have a topic thesis statement, which is great. But after you got your thesis statement, you have to find 5 sources that's related to your topic. So how many of you have find the 5 sources already? No, most of you. Okay, perfect. So what are we gonna do with these sources? Are we gonna listing them or are we gonna mass up? Okay, but once you got your 5 sources, you have to summarize it, evaluate, and also adding your main ideas based on each source. That is what we have to write annotated bibliography. All right, so here is the agenda for our lessons. So first I will go over the definition of annotated bibliography, and we'll talk a little bit about the reasons why we have to write it. And also the elements of the annotated bibliography, I will focus based on the requirements of our assignments, which is on our Blackboard folder of week 8. And also I will emphasize some how to use PhraseBank, the annotated bibliography. As you guys have familiar with that, but just make sure you guys know. And also after that, we will have a group activities about how we're gonna evaluate and summarizing sources. At the end of the class is end with a question and answer session. All right, so here comes the first questions. What is annotated bibliography? When I was in the first semester of my graduate studies, I was so confused about what is annotated bibliography. I don't know either of these words, the meaning. So, but I want to clarify this. So annotated bibliography is a combination of annotations and bibliography. What's the meaning of each? Annotation is a summary, or it's a summary plus evaluation. And bibliography is a list of the sources that you have to use in the process of researching your work. And so it's basically you see the reference list is kind of like bibliography. And also another name of bibliography is works cited. Okay, but what is annotated bibliography based on these 2 definitions? Any guesses? So turn to the person just next to you, just discuss a little bit about what do you think is annotated bibliography. All right, okay, come to class. So any guesses? What is annotated bibliography?
It's like summary for the reference that you have.
Yes, of course. So annotated bibliography is a list of sources that include a summary or an evaluation of each source. So the format could be you have an APA citation here, or you use the IEEE citations, and you have to form, normally, you have to form a paragraph that summarizing this source, evaluate the source, and also add your main idea of the source. But for this class, as Professor said before, you only have to, so first you have to write an APA citation, and you can just copy and paste each of the questions on the Blackboard and just answer right away after each question. So you don't have to really form it into a full paragraph that you have to answer each question at the end of APA citation. So this is we call bibliography, and this is we call annotation. So it's a combination of bibliography and annotation. So we call it annotated bibliography. All right. So why do we have to write it? I have already have my 5 sources. I can just summarize it in my final paper. Why I have to write an annotated bibliography? Does that waste a lot of time?
It's good to know that when you start writing that you will have the exact idea that what about was this
Yes.
this yes
It
cited
helps you.
citation yes.
It helps you deeply
Yes.
evaluate the source and kind of like check the content of the source. Does that match your thesis or the topic? Maybe it's other topic that you don't know. All right. So it helps you to understand and fully informed about the topic before making judgments and write about it, as we said before. And also it distinguished your views and bias on the topics and what the research actually shows. So as you evaluate the sources, you can see a lot of limitations. We call it bias. And also based on that limitations, it can give you motivations about how I gonna form my research paper based on these limitations. Right. And also to assess what research you have got so that you can figure out whether you need to find more or not. So it's kind of check the quality of the sources. If it doesn't really make sense to you or it is out of topic, you definitely have to find more. And also get ready for your final papers. Absolutely. All right. So you guys can go to the Blackboard in the folder of week 8. We can go over each of the questions together. So as I said before, so first you have to format. One thing I have to point out. So Professor has a requirement about your annotated bibliography. At the very top of your annotated bibliography, you have to copy and paste your thesis statement here. Just make sure it don't have like grammatical errors. It's a very well formed thesis statement. Okay, and then start with the first sources and annotations, second sources, annotations. Basically, you have to have 5 annotated bibliographies. Clear? Okay, so after the APA citations or IEEE citations, so here you have to answer these questions. It's already in your Blackboard. So we want to go over each one. So what is the sources, main ideas, and thesis? That's a very important one to be the first sentences. You can quote, some of the main idea you cannot really, it's a better idea to quote it. I cannot really use my long bridge to rephrase it, but definitely you can use a quote. Okay, if you think quote is the best way to summarize the main idea. And also also if you want to quote some things, just make sure you have a quotation mark. At the end of the quotations, you have a page number after it. Okay, and also you can also choose paraphrase or summarize to gather the main idea. Okay, and also why is this source relative to your research papers? So you have to make a connection between each source and your topic. Is it contribute my topic, or is it have a different aspects to formulate my thesis or something? And also the third one is what makes a source convincing? For me, that's what do you think about these questions? Did you understand this question? What does this question mean? What makes the source convincing? Any guess? Anyone?
Evidence,
Evidence? Yes.
experiments.
So the evidence to support the main idea. How this author used evidence to support? In which way?
Data.
Data or also like some experiments or surveys, questionnaires, how we're gonna get the data in order to have the results. Okay. And also, what are the source limitations? As you guys write a lot of research papers, what do you guys see? What are some limitations? What are some limitations could be?
But
What are some limitations?
since I start writing these research papers, that they're asking only the five bibliography source, and limitation should be that only it should be on the topic that taking from this topic.
Well, I mean, these questions you have to answer based on the sources here,
Yes.
right? So you have to talk about the limitation of each source. So what some possible limitations could be?
Sources maybe relate to your thesis statement
Mm-hmm.
and to focus on your major.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Selection.
Yeah, but what's the
Probably
meaning of?
we couldn't understand your
Oh.
question.
So
Yeah.
what is?
And that's maybe the research paper cannot
What's the
follow
meaning of limitation?
maybe I think the paper may focus on some thesis, but it cannot fully deal with this problem.
Mhm.
Like there still have something to improve.
Yes.
Or, some questions,
Mhm.
or maybe it may lack some fundamental theory to
Mhm.
support this experiment or something. So it's not the experiment may be not full.
Yes,
Okay.
it could be one. So I also want to emphasize, none of the research paper are perfect. So if you have a journal articles, they should have a limitations. Every articles, experiment, they both have a limitations. Some of the limitation, as you said, the results cannot really match the questions in the research papers. And also, some possible limitations could be, the source is too old. It is out of date. It could be a limitation.
Some authors use different standard,
Mm-hmm.
just like Chinese and America. Maybe they use different standard to do the same experiment. So
Mhm. Yes, could be one. Yeah. What are some limitations? It's one possible limitations. What are some drawbacks? Out of date, it's old, and what else? For example, if I want to research international student stress at America, and I create a survey, and I only give it to you guys, what is the limitations of my research?
Sample is too less.
Mhm. The numbers of the participants is limited because you guys cannot really represent for the whole community. Could be your one
Oh,
limitation.
you mean the audience? You have to care about the audience?
Not the audience, it's the participants in my study. For example, you have the research papers about exploring the same gender schools.
Yeah.
So if you want to research more about their feelings and their thoughts, you create a surveys and you give it to one same sexual school students, just one. Is that enough? Definitely not.
Yes.
You have to research more. So it is
Do we need to add the surveys as well?
no, because you are evaluate the sources that you found. We are no longer talk about the final papers. We just talks about the annotated bibliography. We just talk about the 5 sources that you have already found. Okay, but you have to find the limitations of these 5 sources. Okay? Don't think about our final assignments. That's so stressed. But you guys clear about limitations? Okay.
Can I say the limitations of source is the shortage of the source?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Mhm.
So every source.
It's something that they have to improve.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And also you can find some of the results didn't really answer the research questions. That could be one. Okay, and also maybe they have some shortage about their methods or something else. Yes. And next one, how are the source related to other sources? So not only you have to make a connection between the sources and your topics, but also you have to make a connection between one source with other sources. Okay, is the source contribute to other sources? Is it have a different ideas? Okay, is it well, have the similar ideas but different results, something like that. So you have to figure out what are some connections between one source and the other sources. What is their relationship like? The last one is what other notes had made about this source? What surprised you, or what something that you feel really confused about? So you can list it at the end of this questions. What are some results in this source of really surprised you? I never thought about that way. Or what are something, the results here or the methodology here, it really confused me. You can also point out. Okay, good? All right, so let's practice. I want to make sure everyone has the worksheet already. So this is just a sample of the students, a sample of his annotated biography. I'm not saying this annotated biography is perfect. They do have limitations, and also some of the good things here. So try to evaluate the annotated biography to see what's the aim of each sentences, and does this annotated biography answer these questions? Talk to the person next to you, and wait about 3 minutes to evaluate it. Okay. So, for is the annotated biography here, and answer the first question. Did the author talks about the main idea here? Which sentence?
The last sentence. This article presents an important versions of history to approximate the truth. No, sorry. This article represents an important contribution to the field of historiography and will figure prominently in my paper's methodology section.
Mm-hmm.
This is the writer's point where she's going to use this bibliography.
Yeah, but more important thing, the author here
It's like, I understand, from my understanding.
talks about in my paper. Here is make a connections between the source and the student's paper, right? You can read it.
It's like she,
Mhm.
how to say, summarized or introduction or abstract.
So the article representing important contributions to the field of something.
Yes.
Is it's mentioned about the function. It's not a main idea. Main idea is what this source talks about. Right?
Yes.
And it also talks about in my paper's methodology sessions,
Yes,
which
she's going
this
to
sentence
use it.
definitely answer which sentence here. This sentence answer which
For the
sentence.
second one.
Yes.
Why is the sort relevant? Yes.
Yes, definitely. So
And,
you make a connection between the student's research paper and this source. Okay? But where is the main idea? The first sentence, something else? Something else? No? What about the third sentence?
Yes.
Sentence.
Tompkins.
Mm-hmm. Concludes.
Yes.
So if you see the concludes here, what the author is trying to say?
General idea.
General.
He's trying to give you the general idea
or results
of results. Yeah.
of the research.
Perfect.
Yes, perfect. And did the author answer what makes the source convincing?
I give an example of herself.
Herself? Which sentence? Second? Yes. So, what's some evidence that you found? Historical.
From perspective and
Mhm.
to illustrate that
Mhm.
historical documents may be maybe not objective.
So it's using evidence to support the author's main idea, right? And also, did it talks about limitations here?
Should we need more evidence?
Yeah, but I mean, the author, did the students talks about the source's limitation? No? Okay. Did it talks about this source is relevant to other sources? No? Okay. And did it talks about something that surprised the student? Of course not. Okay. So you have to make sure, I want to develop your guys' awareness of what you're gonna include in the annotated bibliography. So it's basically you have to answer these questions. Okay, not only summarizing, evaluating, but also added your notes that surprised you, and also very important thing is to make a connection between one source to other sources. Okay, any questions?
How we can evaluate it?
You can evaluate based on what make the source convincing and also the limitations. If you point out the limitation of the sources, you definitely evaluate the source. So evaluating is not only you are talking something good. For example, if I want to evaluate you, I'm not only talking about your good things, but it also talks about what are some things that you have to improve. Okay. Okay, so that is my note when I read this NLP bibliography. It's a very useful reading strategy. So when I was reading journal articles, I would like to use color coding. It's basically using, I have a lot of like highlighters, like different kinds of colors. So I use different kinds of colors to highlight different things. So for example, if I read a journal articles, I will use yellow to highlight the main ideas. And also I would like to use gray highlighters to highlight the methodology, how this author get the results. And what are something interests me, I will highlight it into like purples or other things. So the yellow I marked as a purpose. So the author talks about purpose of this source. And also the procedures is how the author have the evidence to support the main ideas. And also here's the main ideas. And also not the main ideas, but also like the results. It's more important, you have to point out the results of the research paper. And also connect with your research papers, okay? All right, so as a non-native speakers, I think all of us have struggled with how we're gonna format sentences to be more academic, to be more appropriate. So why not, we can use FreeSpank. You know, we can click on, you guys have a link, right, on the Blackboard, okay? So you can click on, we can go over, we can take a look and to see what are something that we can use in our annotated bibliography. So as I said before, a very important session of annotated bibliography is you not only summarizing the sources, evaluate the sources, but also you have to make a connections between one sources to the other. So it's basically comparing different sources. So if you can click on discussing findings to see here, comparing the results, okay? If you find two sources that has the similar mean ideas, you can, and also at the same side, you can definitely use, for example, the second sentences here. So, for example, this findings of, for example, source A was also reported by sources B on blah blah blah. And also comparing the compositions of sources A and B on those areas conforms. Okay? And also try to be flexible, guys. So don't just copy and paste the things and just add things in there. Maybe not really suit in your articles, but in order to naturally fluent in your articles, you have to make revisions. Okay, but using these structures, these phrases can help you to structure your annotated bibliography, especially when you are comparing sources. So, in order to let you guys to practice how we're gonna summarizing and evaluate sources, I create a verb activity. So I will count you guys off from 1 to 3. Okay, as we normally did. So can you say 1?
2.
Yeah, count 1 to 3.
1.
2.
1, 2, 3.
Okay, 1, 2. Okay, so can I have 1 here? Okay, group 1, and group 2 here. Just move a little bit, and group 3 here. And I will give each of the group 1 paragraph. Not 1 paragraph, just one text. Okay, I will give each group 1 text. Where is 1? Just you 3, 4.
Okay, where's 2?
2 is there. And 3. Sorry guys, sorry for you to like move a little bit. So 3 here. Okay. So I will give each group a passage.
I'm still traveling.
Sorry. Okay. So I will give each group a passage, but it is all about gun control and gun limitation. But you guys have a different passage. So let me give group 1, group 2, group 3. Okay. So instruction is here. So first you have to read this passage very carefully, and then focus on 3 aspects. 1 is the main idea. Second is the evidence of supporting the ideas. What does the author use what things to support the main ideas or support his thoughts? And also finding what do you think are some limitations? What do you think this author can improve? Not the author can improve, but this paragraph can improve. Okay, and after you can first read it and have a group discussions and read So first you have to read it, and then you have to write in a worksheet you, and then have a group discussion, and write your group discussion results on the giant post-its, just right after you, about the main ideas, evidences, and the limitations. But limitations is optional, you don't need to have limitations. Okay, and at the end of your discussion, first you have to write it, and then just choose one person from your group to present for the whole class. Alright, so you have 30 minutes working on it. Thank you. Group 2.
Tracking history also.
Group 2, can you present for us?
History also.
Can you present to us? Group 2, hey. Can you present for us? As other groups is not ready, so you guys can go first.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now, with the group 2 to start the presentation first.
Yes.
Okay.
Alright, can I have everyone's attention?
Okay. Excuse me, can I have attention for people? With group 2, and when we finish this source, I have some conclusions about the main idea, evidence, and the limitations. First of all, let's introduce the main idea of this source. And this source only talk the readers about something about the improvement of buying guns, and the details of the improvement is something to checking record system, and the other details is anything.
You can have co-speakers, which means you can have multiple speakers.
Okay.
I think the main idea is that after the massive shooting in Virginia Tech, the author found that there is still a loophole in background checking system, even though some actions have been taken. So there is still some space need to improve.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, perfect. And what are some evidences?
Yeah, evidence is the ATF, which is the Department of the Administration, and the second one is the mental health records.
They use
yeah.
numbers and
And
statistics.
they use numbers, yeah.
Uh-huh.
It's
And
very,
what else?
it's official, yeah.
Uh-huh.
And the third one is others experiments.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, but what are some limitations?
The limitation is that the author just focus on the Virginia state, not the whole nation.
Mm-hmm.
And as we all know that the shooting not just happened in Virginia state, it happens on the whole nation. So I think yeah, it's a big limitation.
Yes.
And he just described his experience, and there are 32 innocent people, so it's not a very good. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, thank you for the presentation. And what about group 3?
The main idea is don't reopen the pipeline of guns because it doesn't stop crimes.
Crimes.
And the convincing is in this article, it used quotation from one person.
It's an expert from the field.
Yes, expert. And also he used a study of 28 gun tracking studies.
Mm-hmm.
And
Use its results or
in this study it showed Virginia still
Okay.
even
show the
reduced-
results of the study.
Yes, even
Okay.
reduced the flow. Virginia still ranked third among outside the states providing guns used in New Jersey creams.
What about third?
Third is it talk about history. So it is.
So use a
fact.
history to add some background information.
Yeah, use a fact.
And what are some limitations?
Limitation is this article lacks of
Data.
rich research data and need to do more research.
Okay, yeah. So just pointing out some thoughts. It's no like some like research based on the results. Okay, yeah, sure. What about group one?
Okay. In our articles, so our main idea, I think, is the one-on-one this law should, in Virginia, should be cancelled. And the author gives several evidence to support the main idea. Firstly is from two research from two different authors. They give evidence to because the law of the gun control didn't decrease the criminal. And give another example. In DC, this is the gun control is there is gun control, but the criminal is still increasing.
Yes.
And as to the elimination, I think
Yeah, we are not sure about that point, but all of them.
yeah, maybe I think the limitation will be the author just talk about the several states. In US in these 50 states, but it didn't talk about the other state situations. And
Okay.
and on the other hand, besides, I think they also didn't give a specific number about the change between change
no
between
data?
no data.
No fact.
Yeah, no data. In fact, just it just said just said gun control didn't decrease.
Yeah. Okay, thank you guys. Based on our presentations, I gave you the exit ticket. See? So try to think about what are some similarities and differences among these stores. What are some similarities? Talk about the topic of gun control, and also these two sources had the same ideas. Did you notice? Yes. So the policy of gun limitations or gun control doesn't really stop the crimes happen, right? And what are some differences?
We use different.
Evidence?
Yeah.
And what are some differences? Any idea? Yeah. Also, this source talks more about how we're gonna improve the system of like a background check system to avoid gun shooting happen. And these two talks about, the gun control policy do not really have like a positive impacts on the society. Alright, so just write down one similarities and one differences among these sources, and just write notes about what did you learn in this activity. As you are writing the exit tickets, I would like to emphasize some of the gradings, the rubrics for the annotated biography or assignment. So your annotated biography should include 5 sources, as I said before. So basically you have to write 5 annotated biographies based on each source. Okay, and also, as I said before, you have to have an APA citation or IEEE citations at the top. Sorry, the very top, you have to mention about thesis statement, and then annotate the citations, and just leave it blank about like questions. So answer each question. Yeah, answer each. You can copy and paste the question first, and answer each questions after in like each sentences. Each questions, and make sure you answer the questions as are discussed before. These questions is fully answered and accurately, and also the total word of your answers for each source is 200 words. Is that clear? Means the total number of your answers for these questions should be within 200 words. Okay. And also make sure your annotations is logic, is clear and floating, have no grammatical errors. if you finish like the exit ticket, you can give it to me and you are ready to go. If you have any questions, just point out.
Ready to go.